There we go. Hi, my beauties. We are back, Jack, and we've got a lot to go over. We're going to be making stuffed bell peppers today while we discuss true crime. So if you guys are hungry, it's time to make you guys a little more hungry on the Bullhorn Betty channel. We're going to start off with rice. I don't know how many of you folks have this. This is a rice cooker, okay? It's an Instapot. You see that? Instapot. We're going to make rice in the Instapot. If you have an Instapot, it's the only thing I use the Instapots for. I know you can do a bunch of stuff with the Instapot. I know you can saute. I know you can do a whole host of other stuff with the pot. We are using the pot for rice. So we need 1 cup of rice for this stuffed bell peppers. If you guys don't see, these are nice sized bell peppers. They're gorgeous. They are gorgeous. Nice, good, solid. And you can see they're all standing up. These are the bell peppers, the actual bell peppers that we are going to be using today. And it requires 1 cup of rice. Now, in the Instapot, you can have literally rice done in 10 minutes, okay? And it can be cooled because, as you know, we don't need all this stuff hot. It's going to go in the oven to cook the rest of the way. So, 1 cup of rice into the Instapot. I've got a story to tell you guys, and you're going to laugh at me. And it comes down to the butter. Butter face. Right? It comes down to the butter. Now, you guys watched me make biscuits and gravy. And you watched me take my my butter dish and stick on the stove. Well, when I went back to grab some butter for I had an English muffin for a little snack yesterday, and I wanted butter for my English muffin. So I went over to my handy dandy butter tray that was still sitting on the oven, or the top of the stove, and I had liquefied butter. So what does Bullhorn Betty do? I say, well, that was stupid. And I go and pour the melted butter onto my English muffin. Melted butter. I think it was probably about this much melted butter that went on to my English muffin. A lot of butter. I didn't realize how much butter had melted until I poured it, but now we know. So anyways, back to the butter. Put a tablespoon of butter into the rice. I put a little bit of salt and pepper in it just to give it a little bit of flavor. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. I do. I can't stand bland rice. So I'm just going to put a little bit of salt in there and a little bit of pepper. And then all you do with the Instapot is you add 2 cups of water. How easy is that? How easy is that? 1 cup of rice. You don't even have to put the butter or the salt or the pepper into it. You just need to put 1 cup of rice and 2 cups of water, and you will have perfect rice. So this will be ready in about 10 minutes. So we'll go ahead and pop the lid on that. As Jessica with Aggressive Recipes would say, pop a lid on the bitch. But we have Sonia. She doesn't like that language. So now let's start it. Okay, guys. This is the secret, okay? You have to parboil these, okay? So these have to, I've already got the water. You guys can't see it. It's already starting to, but I got water. So we're going to cut the tops off these. Don't discard the tops. You got to cut the tops in a perfect, and then you got to clean out the inside. So we'll do one. I'll show you how it's done. I'll turn you guys around here. You guys can't see my board because I'm not letting you see my kitchen. It's not like the worst kitchen in the world, but I've got stuff all over here. I'll just take, so you guys don't think I'm like, oh my God, she's dirty. I'm not dirty. I just got cans and you know, all this crap here, so it's just easier to keep this background. That's all. That's all. It's not that big of a deal, okay? Not that big of a deal. So now I'm going to take a knife, not to be mistaken for a machete, okay? Let me move this back just a little bit. There we go. Not to be, again, you're rocking. Okay, this is what you call a knife. I like this knife. This is actually a Paula Deen knife, but I like these because it keeps things from slipping on me. See that? So now we're going to act like this is every child abuser in the world, and we're going to chop their head off. That's all you do. Chop the head off. You pull this stuff out by twisting. And then you got this. Don't throw that away. If you like to plant, you can use some of those. Some of these things don't. They do something to them where you can't plant the seeds. But I find the green ones are easiest to plant. I don't think they... Okay, so that's all you want. You want a very cleaned, well... Now this is going to end up going into boiling water for about 5 to 10 minutes. Don't throw these away. We're going to need it for the filling. And you do that for as many as you've got these bell peppers. And you just do it. I brought 4 nice sized bell peppers. That's what I'm going to be using. Everything else is just going to be done. So after we clean these out, they're going to be boiled. So for all the people that are worried about bacteria and stuff like that, it'll be boiled out in about 2 seconds. If you're worried about my hands not being covered with gloves, they're going to be boiled in about 2 seconds. The good thing is I don't touch meat without gloves on my hand. I think it's disgusting. I love meat. I just don't like the goo up under my nails. So because of that, I always put gloves on when I'm dealing with especially hamburger. I can't stand it up under my nails. So for those that are in here watching, it's nice to have you. I'm Bullhorn Betty. We're going to be talking about true crime here in a minute, but right now you might as well see how I do stuffed peppers. And I don't use expensive food. I don't think it's necessary to use, like, I want to save a lot. Okay? Everything that I'm cooking with today, outside of the meat, is bought from Save-A-Lot. The meat came from Walmart. I bought a package of hamburger. I think it was 5 pounds for 20 bucks. I cut it down. Oh, I didn't cut that. That one's a little off. It's kind of going up. The rest of them I did pretty good. Okay, so now all these things do is just go into boiling water, which I've got boiling water right here. I'm just going to put it in here for about, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. Make sure they're submerged under the water. You want to make sure that they got water in the holes and that they are submerged and able to float. You don't want them, you want them moving. I'm throwing the seeds away. I'm not going to have a green thumb. My green thumb's broken. So this actually goes into my compost bag. I have 3 different bags in my house. One's a compost bag, one's a recycling bin, and one's straight garbage. I do compost. I find it, it's good for the yard. It's good for the environment. I don't plant a whole lot, so I don't use it for cultivation purposes of any kind, because I just, Glenn grows stuff. You know, he's got oregano going over there, several different kinds of peppers, but it's not my cup of tea. I don't do that. So now I'm just going to take these off my cutting board. These are just the heads. We're going to cut these down in just a second, but I want to get all the seeds off my cutting tray, because I don't want too many seeds going in to the meal. And then all I do is just make sure that the heads don't have a whole lot of seeds in them, so we're going to cut those heads down. We'll get started on that. So we've been talking about the case of Emmanuel. We've been talking about the case of Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. And we've been talking about the case of Lily and Jack Sullivan. These are our more recent cases that we're discussing. And it's because these cases defy logic. The stories that the parents have provided. So this is really all you should have left from the bell pepper that goes in the garbage. Just the stem. They defy logic. For example, Lily and Jack Sullivan. It's very unlikely that children disappear together. Oh, thank you, Patty, for becoming the newest member of the crazy family we call the Coffee Club. Nice to have you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I wish I could put you up on the screen, but I can't because I'm just running straight YouTube. But thank you so much. I appreciate it. But it's very uncommon. All the professionals that have been dealing with stories like this, you know, like our law enforcement partners I shouldn't say law enforcement partners. We don't partner with anybody, but they're YouTubers that are on here that provide their expertise on certain cases. So, you know, things like the interrogation room with Chris McDonough and, you know, the deception detective, an attorney, you know, trained in statement analysis. We value their opinions in these cases. You know, some people don't because it goes against their narrative or whatever, but these are professionals highly sought out in their career of expertise, and so we're going to listen to them as opposed to hate channels that are, you know, drug addicted, don't know their ass from their elbow, and don't know really what they're doing other than having a microphone and an opinion. They don't know how to do proper research unless it's to, you know, call swatting people in. You know, they do a great research when it comes to content creators on these platforms and finding out where they go to church, where they're living, you know, how many children they have, what schools those children go to. They're great at research like that, but when it comes to these cases, they seem to get stupid and their investigative skills go out the window, which is what brings us to believe that these hate channels are really just channels to manufacture, you know, plan Bs for all these criminals. And that's what they do, and that's what they sell. We don't sell that. We sell reality. We sell truth. But the Sullivan kids, they disappeared. Parents screaming abduction, much like Rebecca Haro has in Yucaipa, California. Her kids were abducted, except theirs was a lot less violent. This is where the problem is that, sorry, I gotta turn the fan on. I didn't realize how hot it was gonna get in here. There we go. Did I tell you I put new fans in the house? I put new fans with remote controls. I no longer care about being short anymore. I don't have to step on my tippy toes to turn a fan on. I love it. Or a light. And I got a Bluetooth light in here. I could connect my Bluetooth light and we could be jamming with some music. I have Bluetooth speakers in my kitchen that can sync with my phone. It's awesome. Anything that's on my phone can go through my... All right, what time is it? I think we're getting close to the time we need to pull those bell peppers out. Let me chuck them. Some tongs. A few more minutes. But you see them, they'll come down. They're a little more loose, but you have to parboil them because you want the bell pepper to be as soft as the meat texture inside the pepper. So this is going to be very limited ingredients. All we're going to do is 1 medium onion, these little bits that are left over from the head of the bell pepper, garlic, salt, and pepper, and then of course our tomato sauce, which we're going to make. I'm going to show you guys how to make it again. Just cheap canned stuff. I didn't pay a whole lot of money for this to make a great meal. So those parents that are on a budget, or if you're, you know, if you got to start cooking some food because grocery prices are getting out of control and you need some healthy meals. I'm not sure, you know, I loved bell peppers when I was a younger kid, but I also liked broccoli and sweet peas and ate my carrots and my corn. My parents didn't have a whole lot of problems with me eating vegetables. I liked vegetables when I was younger. I don't think I liked asparagus asparagus by far is one of my favorite vegetables that I love now as an adult. But I don't think asparagus, I can't remember, but I think at first I didn't like asparagus, but then my mom had no problem feeding asparagus to me. But I know a lot of kids don't like bell peppers, don't like onions. They haven't acquired the taste for this type of stuff yet. So this is probably not unless your children like this type of food. It's probably not, you know, you might want to make your kids grilled cheese or something like that for dinner, but this is a good hearty meal. I'm actually making 2 bell peppers. That's all I'm serving. I'm not serving salad. I'm not serving sides. The 2 bell peppers is going to be the full meal. It's going to be the entree. I'll probably only be able to eat 1 of the bell peppers, even though I'm making myself 2 and Glenn 2, but I'll eat it for lunch tomorrow or later tonight as a late night snack. But getting back to the oddities, you know, honestly, the Sullivan kids are the most bizarre because they're trying to allege that the kids disappeared together because they're best friends. Remember how Daniel was so adamant about telling us how great the relationship was between Lily and Jack? I think that was more manipulation because he needed to express why they would have ran off together or left together or been together, and it was like they were the best of friends, you know, and that was kind of I think their explanation as to why they were together or left together, because again, all the professionals are saying that it is for 2 children to be abducted together, siblings, not just children, siblings. It's very difficult. And then not only that, but you also have the fact that there was nobody out there. It's not like they're in a specific area of the environment out there. And then we have Janie, as well as Malaya and Daniel, that just seem they have these children, these underage children, but we have 3 adults out there at the property. Nobody knows nothing. Nobody saw nothing. You know, nobody can explain this, but yet there's 3 adults that say that they were all up and active at the time these children were. Then they try to say they're laying in bed, but listen to their story since then, right? Somebody called these children in as sick at 6:17 in the morning. That does not sound like parents that are sleeping. And then to hear, well, what are they wearing? And you hear Malaya say, well, I don't know. It was Daniel that was in the room. And it's like, wait a minute. Well, I thought it was you that called them in sick. How would you know that they're still sick if you didn't even go into the room to check on them? Doesn't make sense. Nothing about these statements really hold a lot of factual belief to them because the statements themselves, when you put it pen to paper, defies logical reasoning. And I think that's what's honing us in on these parents is because their story defies logical reason. And I think it's almost a piece of us that's like, no. These oh, here we go. So here's I don't know if I can show you. So this is what just the tops make. Look at that. That's a lot of bell pepper. But those have to be put more into bite-sized pieces because they're too chunky. So I've got to now cut them into even smaller pieces because they've got to go into the pot, and I don't want a whole bunch of chunky bites. So and of course I'm throwing some on the floor. You guys can't see what I'm doing, but I'm making a mess. It's going on the floor. It's going all over the counter. Every time I chop, more just fall. What a fun little thing to do, though. Okay, I think we got them in bite-sized pieces, so I'm putting them into the skillet. And these were just all 4 of the heads. We just cut around the stem. We pulled out the guts, and we cut up the bell pepper. Now we need 1 medium onion, which I thought I brought out. Where the hell's my medium onion? Okay, I think the bell peppers are done. Oops. too done. That's okay. I tore one of my bell peppers when I went to go drain it. I didn't realize I accidentally clipped my, okay. So there's the bell peppers. They're out. They've been parboiled. They're soft, or as soft as they need to be for this. So now all these do is just sit aside and cool and dry. And then we'll pack them in before we put it in the oven. So now we're going to take, I got to find my medium onion. I could have sworn I took it out, but I think I left it somewhere. Oh, there it is. I found it. Left it on the other side of the dining table. I'm going to go ahead and start getting the bell peppers. I'm just going to put about a tablespoon of onion or butter in there. Put this on 5 and let that start cooking those down. The rice is done. We're gonna have fun. And not only that, but we're gonna be talking about true crime, because in addition to Lily and Jack Sullivan's case, we have Emmanuel's case, which also defies logic. This is another mother that is saying a story that just can't be proven. It's not that they're not trying to prove everything. It's just that they can't prove it, because there are no witnesses to this altercation that happened to her out in the parking lot. There is no scent being picked up of this unknown abductor and or the baby. None of that exists out there. None of it. So right now we're in the process of doing bell peppers as we talk about true crime, but the first is the cooking aspect of it. So what did we do? We've already gotten our bell peppers. We de-gutted them. We took we cut the tops off, cut the bottoms of the bell peppers. We put the bell peppers. The bell peppers should not be in there any more than maybe 8 minutes. I think we did 10 minutes. I softened them up just a little bit longer than I wanted to, but that's okay. They are bell peppers. The one good thing is that the pepper himself will be soft. But you really only want for yourself to cook it for maybe 5 or 7 minutes tops. Then you pull them out. They should still be pretty firm but soft. And then we're going to start making the filling. And the filling is very simple. It's just the scraps of the bell peppers from the heads that we took off, and a medium onion, and about 5 cloves of garlic. I used minced garlic already in the jar, so I'm just going to do 1 huge heaping of garlic, maybe 2, and that should be about all that's needed. Half an onion. Do the other half. Okay, now our onions are chopped. We're going to put those right in here with the butter and the bell peppers. And that's going to be it. We're going to let those cook, and then we'll get started on the ground beef. This should only have to cook for about 10 minutes as well. All right. So now we're on this case, which we've been covering this case for quite some time. And what we've learned in this case is that the parents' story doesn't make sense. Nobody saw what they said happened, even though it was in a very public location. Since then, law enforcement has challenged the family on inconsistencies in hope that they could explain a little more in detail what happened to hopefully bring clarity so that they're not mistakenly focusing on the parents when they shouldn't be, and they should be focusing on a third party. But upon those discussions, it's apparent that the parents are hiding something. We don't know what well, we have an idea of what we believe they are hiding. We believe that they are hiding, We believe they are hiding the fact that they injured this child and covered up the crime. That's what many of us believe doing this for a while. That's what many of the experts believe doing this for a while. And there's a laundry list that is growing as to why people are now focusing on the mom and the dad. The mom is sporting around a black eye, but again, we all know that that black eye was old, so we're not going to keep going through this detail. The black eye is the issue. What time is dinner? We're actually having supper at, it's usually about 2:30. That's when Glenn feeds me, and that's when I feed him. It's about 2:30. Now we have our rice that's finally done. I can't touch it because it's in the pot, but I can't start taking it out. But first we're going to be mixing. How I mix my sauce for this is I find it. This comes in. You can get name brand. I got a knockoff. This was from again Save a Lot, because one of the things is we have a lot of people that are struggling to put food on their table. So whenever I cook these, I keep cost in mind when I'm making food. And as many of you know, I have also started reducing the amount of food I am making per meal because I'm only feeding myself and one other person. And it's very difficult. I have been cooking for 6 to 8 people almost a decade prior to my divorce. And now trying to, cook food smaller has been an adjustment for me. I have not been able to do it very well. So we do have a little bit of stuff. What I got is I got these diced tomatoes, and they're basil, garlic, and oregano. I like these as opposed to the plain because I end up putting these exact ingredients in the plain tomatoes anyway. So having it already in and married with the tomatoes is really good. We also have just regular old plain Jane tomato sauce. Again, very cheap. I think I spent 59 cents or 69 cents on this can. So we've got 2 cans here. This is maybe $1 or $2.20 or $1.20, and this actually cost a little bit more. I think this was $1.20 itself, and this is tomato paste. We're only going to use about half of this in our recipe. So I just want to show you guys, because all you're doing is taking all these vegetables that you're cooking down, and you're going to make very, very tender and soft. You can make them as chunky or as small slice. I'm a chunky person. I don't want it too chunky, but I like to have different flavors popping in my mouth as I'm biting down. So I make mine in my bell peppers and I stuff bell peppers. I make my vegetables a little more on the chunkier side. You may like more minced vegetables, and that's just going to take a little more time cutting them down. I find chunkier vegetables cooked down to tender is the way. Stop communicating. Stop it. You guys want to know what she's doing right now? Emily is barking at somebody, so she's barking to Emily to let Emily know. You guys can't hear Emily. I can hear Emily. You guys can only hear Delilah, but I can hear Emily outside the house, and so she's letting Emily know she hears her. Dogs talking to dogs. It is a thing, believe me. If you don't have a dog or a neighbor dog, then you probably don't know what I'm talking about. But if you have a dog, you own a dog, your neighbor has a dog, you know very good and well the dogs like each other and they communicate often. The only difference is they don't have a cell phone, okay? So they bark through walls. Yay. Yay. Oh, Pete. Yeah, VA, are you in here? Yeah, we got stuffed bell peppers. We're doing stuffed bell peppers today. I'm cooking down the vegetables until they're tender, and then I'm going to pull that up. And I actually am doing my bell peppers a little differently this time. I'm actually taking a little bit of country sausage, and I'm going to be incorporating it into my hamburger as well to give it a little more of a flavor. If I can go without really seasoning the meat, and we're going to have to season a little bit, but if I can go with less seasoning because I add a little bit of sausage into the mix, I would like that, because it's all about consumption. And not only that, but I can tell you sausage is probably not the best thing, most healthiest thing. This is filled with also, actually it's not bad. It says pork water contains less than 2% corn syrup, which, people are against. But it has MSG. It has some MSG in it. That's about it. But for the most part, that's not too bad. But it's high fat, so it's not the best meat to put in. But so is 80-20 hamburger anyways. You got a lot of fat in your 80-20. That's what I'm using, 80-20, because it's the most affordable meat. If you can, if you're out in the country, I'm going to tell you that if you've got the money, the best thing for you to save money in this environment is buy a quarter cow or a half a cow. And get that meat sealed. Get them cut down, make your hamburger. You'll get meat so much, I mean, literally dollars per pound cheaper to buy and have a butcher just cut it up for you. And then you're still not doing any of the work. You're just buying a larger quantity. Pork does give it a kick. It does. I like it. I've only done my bell peppers with sausage one other time, and I did like it. I was going to go for traditional today, but I had that extra, I'm out of biscuits, so I have the extra sausage, so I'm not going to be making any biscuits and gravy, the rest of that for biscuits and gravy this week, so I've got to use it. And I figured this is the best place to use it at. So we're cooking along. We got a lot of vegetables in here. I don't know if I'm going to use all these vegetables in the mix. You've got to balance it for you, and I'll show you how to do that. But right now we're going to go ahead and start getting our tomato mixture. You're going to need to have enough tomato mixture to incorporate in the rice and meat, as well as underneath it and on top of it. So here's the tomato sauce. Where's my, oh, I used that for that. Oops, hold on, I gotta move some stuff around here real quick. All right, there, that's moved. So this is the bowl that we're just gonna put, and again, it's just 1 can of tomato sauce right into the bowl, okay? That's all you're doing, just putting the can of tomato sauce in there. Tap it, get as much out of it. It's not that serious. You don't have to scrape. You don't have to scrape, trust me. And then we're going in with 1 can of diced tomatoes. The difference in this one is I removed the juice. So I score it just a little bit. I score it just a little bit, and I remove about just a tad bit of juice. There's not that much juice in here, but I just don't want it extra liquidy, so that's all I do. And that's for the oregano, tomato, and basil diced tomatoes. If you really want a kick, you can go for fire roasted. All right, we're getting close to these being done, and let me check. Well, we got a little bit more. The peppers are taking a little bit longer. They're not quite there yet. Tomatoes are there. So that's what it should look like. You should have your tomatoes. You should have your tomato sauce. So you have chunky tomatoes in it. You see that? That's kind of what you want your sauce to look like. Now, while this is finishing up with tenderizing, this is when I'm going to put in the garlic. This is what I use. People want to use, and this is probably going to be about how much garlic I put into it. It's a lot of garlic. Now that's going to sit. We're going to cook for another 5 minutes. We're going to pull the vegetables, and we're going to start cooking the meat. Then we'll start preparing the bell peppers and start getting them stuffed. I'm not cooking the bell peppers right away. I'm going to wait until probably closer to 1:30 because we eat between 2 and 2:30. And then we're going to sit down and just have some discussions about true crime once I get these prepared. Just remember, they go into the oven at 350 for the final cooking for about 30 minutes. And that's about it. And you're going to want to watch that to make sure they don't brown too much on top. But that's really all you want to do, and you're done. Now, my vegetables as well as my garlic look just about done. So I'm going to pull this off and get this put into something. This is about what you want. If you guys notice, look at this camera. Let me back it up a little bit. This right here is translucent, okay? Everything is soft, everything is tender, fork tender, that's what you want. We're almost done. We're almost done. We're getting it in our bowl. If you guys are here for true crime and not the cooking, we'll be doing the true crime in here in just a little bit. We'll do the true crime in just here in a little bit. Okay, so now we're gonna put our sausage in, and after this, I'm gonna have to wash my hands and get some gloves on because I gotta pull the hamburger. So give me just a second. I gotta wash. Oops. Still more in here. Okay. If you guys want to know what that was my my Dawn slipping and falling. Gotta pick it up off the floor. All right. All right. Let me get gloved up. You guys don't have to use gloves for your family. My only problem is I don't like hamburger meat under my nails. I keep my nails, if you notice, I don't ever wear long nails. I don't go get my nails done. I keep my nails very clean and very cut. The only time my nails are ever dirty, that you will ever see my nails dirty, is when I'm out working in the yard. And that's because I don't put gloves on when I'm in the dirt. I don't know why. It just seems stupid that I'll put gloves on for meat. But meat will kill you. Dirt will not. You know? All kinds of bacteria is up under your nails. But that's the only time you'll ever see, and I try to clean them out, but sometimes that dirt gets up under there and it takes a couple days to get it all cleaned out because my nails go so far back. Okay, let's get the last one. We're getting the tomato paste open. There we go. Tomato paste is important in this because it thickens up the stuff. I don't know if this is a pound of meat or not. I really don't. I don't really care because we got the sausage and we have but that's what I'm putting in. That's what I cut off the last time. So I'm just going to break it up. And just let that cook down. So that's it. Now you know I wear gloves. Now my gloves the usefulness of these gloves are done. All right, so while that's cooking, we're going to sit down and start talking about some true crime, and then we just have to assemble the bell peppers, let them rest, and we will be good to go. Hopefully you guys learned something about cooking. You don't need a whole lot. You don't need a whole lot of money to make yourself a good meal. I don't know how many of you guys like the bell peppers. Now, if you don't like the onions or the peppers in the meat, but you still like the flavor and you like the filling, you can always make the filling. Just take the bell pepper and the onion and put in there as you're cooking whole. So you're getting the flavor, but not the actual vegetable. And then you can remove it out at the end and it'll still have that amazing flavor and aroma. So it just really depends. If you guys are here, we're covering true crime and cooking all in one show. Our meal for today is going to be stuffed bell peppers from scratch. I talked my way, so I made my bell peppers. You don't want them this soft when they come out. I got mine a little soft, and I broke it right here. That's just one. The rest of them were fine. So this one got a little tear in it, but the rest of them were fine. This one came out perfect. This one came out perfect. So you want them soft. They shouldn't be this soft. I overcooked it just a little bit when I should have pulled it out a little bit sooner. So 5 to 7 minutes is really all you want for your bell peppers. This will work for me because the softer the vegetable is, the better for my clan. If you want it a little firmer, then you want to reduce that cooking. I think I cooked it about 10 minutes, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. So again, all the filling is rice, a meat, which is typically a hamburger or a sausage or a combination of both. We chose to do the combination of both. We're doing both sausage as well as hamburger. We're going to be incorporating our cooked onions and peppers into the mixture with our rice, our meat, and then we are making a tomato sauce right now. A tomato paste right now. This is the tomato paste that we're using. Again, inexpensive stuff. So if you have a family or you're on a fixed income, let me move this up just a tad bit. Just a little too low. There, now you guys are up to my head. I just want to make sure that you guys can make good hearty meals for yourself without so much money. So the secret is, for me, is buying in bulk and parsing down. That's how I've been able to afford my lifestyle. So I'll buy a lot of meat. See, I have a place called Samoset Meats over here. They actually sell meat packages. That means you can get, they usually in the meat packages, they give you a little bit of, pork, steak, chicken. They don't put usually like fish or anything else in those meat packages, but they give you a good variety and a selection of meat. If you're more partial to, say, a chicken meat package, they have a chicken meat package that will give you the majority of chicken meat. They also have steak package and the same, but the Southern, I usually get the Country Club, I think is what it's called. And the Country Club comes just with a variety of meats. Different meats like chicken, steak, pork. And you get one substitution. You get one substitution on the meat. So if they come with like chicken legs or chicken quarters, ooh, let's not put that back on the stove. I almost put the butter tray back on the stove as if I didn't learn my lesson yesterday. Good gracious. Good gracious. So our meat is actually browning. A lot of people, they don't allow their meat to cook. And so when you cook hamburger, you get more of a gray tint burger. If you're getting gray tint hamburger, that's just telling you you're not cooking it long enough on one side. You want it brown. Your meat should be browned, not gray. If you get gray meat, it's not because you got bad meat. It could be. But you'd be able to smell it, okay? But it's typically because you're not allowing your burger to brown. Your burger needs to brown. Your sausage needs to brown. That's that crispy little coating that's on the back of it. Let me show you what browning should look like. Hold on, I got a piece right here. Let's see if I can get that. I don't want to touch it. Come on, baby. You got it. All right, you guys see that? That's a brown. That right there is a little piece of browning, right? You want it brown. You don't want it gray. You want a nice brown burger. And once you accomplish that, we're going to remove the meat. It's what they say, draining. I do not believe in putting your grease down your sink. If anybody's telling you to put your grease down your sink, don't. Okay, there's two things you can do it. You can put it into a separate dish until it hardens and then pitch it. You can take the tallow off of it and then pitch it. But what I'll do, because there's a lot of grease in here, is once I remove this, I take paper towels and soak it up. And the paper towels go into the garbage. That's what I do. You do not want to be putting meat grease down I know it's easy. I know that we haven't had problems. It's not the problems. If you're living in a newer house, it's not the problems that you're going to have right now. It's the problems you're going to have in 20 years from now from doing that. Okay? So I live in a much older home. My home was built in 1962, so it already had, almost, oh, good gracious, 60 years of grease being dumped down the drain. Okay? So a lot of people don't know better because they watch their family, they watch their friends, drain everything into the sink. I don't mind draining hot water. Actually, draining boiling hot water down your sink is probably the best thing your pipes could have. One thing that isn't the best thing they could have is grease. Grease, when it's cool, hardens like a rock. If you don't believe me, maybe the best thing for you is to dump your grease into a container and sit it on your counter until it cools. That big block, a chunk of white that floats on top of it, that is literally getting all over your walls of your pipes. So over time, pipes that have an opening like this, much like your arteries that you clog up with that same fat, it just starts shrinking until you start having plumbing problems, and then you're scratching your head, what's going on with my pipes? Well, how many pounds of grease have you pumped down your pipes in the last 20 years? That might be what's wrong with your pipes. So just as a caution, paper towels when you're cooking fatty meat that produce a lot of grease is going to be your best friend. It keeps your pipes clean. It costs you a little extra money in paper waste, but the paper is biodegradable. It's one of the first things that are going to be degraded out at the landfill. So now we're done with our meat. I don't want to put the meat on top of the, because we've got to assemble all this. So I don't want to put the meat on top of the vegetables because I might not use all the vegetables in the mixture. I might not use all of the hamburger in the mixture. So let's go ahead and turn that off. Our hamburger is done. And so we're just going to gingerly just take it out. I don't know if you guys can see that. No, you guys can't because my head's not. There we go. We just gingerly take it out. I have to put my head close enough to the meat. Make sure my hair is not getting in it, which it's not. So we just drain it. Let me get on this. No. You just drain it. You scoop it and drain it. Okay, that's it. Let me just take this damn thing off so you guys can see what the heck I'm doing here. Okay? You scoop and drain. You scoop and drain. Okay? That's all you're doing. You're just draining the meat and you're putting it into another container. Just saying. If anybody's wondering, we're talking about true crime and bell peppers. Right now, we're just talking about bell peppers. I am stuffing bell peppers today. That is going to be our meal. And so what I've got here is a skillet full of grease. What do we do with the grease? Well, we don't do what people tell you to do. We do not dump grease down the drain at Casa Bullhorn Betty, okay? We use paper towels and we use garbage facilities. Why? Because we don't like plumbing problems. Grease is the number one plumbing problem. And do you know what the number one, and I heard this directly from a plumber that came here to look at one of my old dishwashers. I have stopped using the pods. You know those pods with that plastic stuff over it? I stopped using them because I had a plumber tell me that those things are the worst things that you can use in a dishwasher. And I'm like, they're advertised as being safe because I know what they're saying. He goes, but the problem is the plastic casing around the chemicals that hold the chemicals in the package, that doesn't always break down in the dishwasher. So they told me that it actually clogs the jets of the dishwasher. And so, yeah, you have great dishwashing experience until you stop and your dishwasher is no longer effective and is not spraying out of the little jets to clean your dishes. And they said that's a direct result of those pods not breaking down right and clogging your jets. So I stopped using the pods after that. I ended up buying a new dishwasher, and the dishwasher has never had one of those pods put in it. And lo and behold, when I bought my new dishwasher, as one of the perks for my new dishwasher, they gave you like 2 or 3 packs of these pods. And I never used them. All right, I'm still just trying to get all the chunk meat out of here. It's starting to get a little difficult because it's just all grease. Okay, so we have a massive, if you guys cannot see this, this is a massive amount of grease. This would normally go down your kitchen sink. You turn your hot water on and you would flush this down your sink. Don't do that. If you've done that in the past, don't do that anymore. The best way to do it is take a roll of paper towels. If you're buying Brawny, you're wasting your money. This is Sparkle. I get a whole, like, 12 pack of paper towels for like $6. And all I do is I just set it in here. I push it down with my spatula into the grease. And that's all I do. This is it. There's my pan. I walk away. I walk away from this. I don't do anything with this right now. I let it continue to absorb all of the grease. And then I take my tongs, wipe this whole thing out, and throw this paper towel in the garbage can. No grease down the drain. No grease down the drain. All right, guys, so now we have our tomatoes, which we haven't incorporated that tomato paste in yet. So I'm going to incorporate that tomato paste in to help get this thing a little bit thicker. So you want a chunky, thick tomato for your mixture. We have rice. We need 1 cup of rice. So I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to prepare my mixture in the rice bowl. This is from the cooker, as you see, perfect rice. And so now we're just going to loosen that rice up from the bottom because it's been sitting there for a few minutes cooling because we don't need it hot. We're not cooking these bell peppers right away. So now we're just going to start layering. We got our rice, so we're going to start putting in our meat. I'm only going to put in about 2/3 of the meat because I want to make sure that we have a good mixture of meat and rice. Once we figure out how much meat this incorporates with the rice, then we're going to have it. Okay, that looks pretty good. It looks like it could take some more meat. So let's go ahead and put some more meat in here. We're not going to be using all this meat, I can tell you that. We're going to probably leave about that much meat left. Not much, but you don't need to add a whole lot of meat in there if you've got enough. So we're wanting to make sure that the meat is incorporated really good in with the rice. Something like that. Okay, you got a good mixture of meat and rice. Now it's time to start incorporating the vegetables. So we're only going to start out with half the vegetables because like I said, I make my vegetables chunky. So we don't want this overpowered with bell peppers and onions because we've got the base of what we're stuffing to be a bell pepper. It could use more. So now I'm going to get another 1/4 of this. Actually, I think it's going to be able to take all the vegetables, honestly. Ooh, that's good. Okay, vegetables are all incorporated. So we did have a good amount of bell peppers and onions. Let me get a stirring spoon. It's starting to get a little hard for me to incorporate that. And so now this is what we have. Okay, you guys see that? Not overpowering with the vegetables, not overpowering with the meat. And so now it's time, you only want, this sauce is just enough, okay? This sauce is just enough. You're going to have to be very careful with this sauce because we've got, oops, there's some more that needs to be blended in. We need to have some to put on the bottom of the pan that we're going to be cooking these bell peppers in. We need some of this juice left to top the bell peppers with. So you got to be careful with how much you incorporate into your mixture. So we're just going to count. I'm going to try to do about half of the mixture, and it's probably going to take about 2/3 of the mixture, leaving about 1/3 of the mixture for the cooking. So if you guys don't know what to cook tonight and I've given you an idea, I can tell you that this meal, and it could feed more, you know, like I said, I'm making this as the entree and the side. So we're going to have 2 of these large bell peppers stuffed, and that's going to be the entire dinner. I'm not adding salad or sides or a bread with this. If you wanted to make this meal stretch a little bit longer, you could give one person a bell pepper, incorporate a side salad or some other kind of side with it. Is VA laughing at me? I'm surprised as a Republican she didn't use bell pepper. Because I'm Southern, and Southern is green bell pepper. Only the hoity-toity people use this colorful stuff. Okay, I'm not hoity-toity. And let's be honest, I may be a Republican on paper, but I truly am America people, right? We advocate for everything, for all. And a lot of people don't believe that, but as long as it's America first, I'm down. I don't care where the America first policies come from. I don't care if they're on the right, the left, in the middle. I don't care, as long as they're America first. All right, guys. This is the stuffing for the bell peppers. Talk about gorgeous. This is a gorgeous, now there's one thing we forgot to do. And can you guys think of it? It's the salt and pepper. I leave the salt and pepper to the very end of all my cooking, because a lot of this stuff gives its own flavor. And if you're salt and peppering it during the process, you may have or fear that it might be too salty or peppery. So this is where we get a separated spoon, 2. If you're cooking for other people, this process requires 2 spoons. If you're cooking for yourself, spoons are optional, okay? I am cooking for my neighbor as well as me, so I'm going to use 2 spoons. That is very good. It literally doesn't even hardly need salt and pepper. Wow. But it does need a little bit. So now comes the salting and the peppering of the, but not much. Okay. I gotta cover the pepper because I'm gonna start sneezing. The pepper messes with mine. I think it needs just a little more salt than that. That's just not enough salt for this big pot of stuff. Okay, I'm gonna put just a little more salt in it. And then we're gonna taste it with the other spoon that we have not used. Otherwise, like I said, you can use your finger, you can use the same spoon you just stuck in here. You can use this spoon if you're cooking for yourself, okay? Because if you get your stuff on your own food, who cares? It's when you're cooking for somebody else. All right. Now comes the fill. Oh yeah, let me test it. Which one did I have? This one looks like it's, yeah, this is the one. So let's just test it again. We got a clean spoon. Here it is. Now that's perfect. Actually, you know what? Let me get another spoon. I think I'm going to use a smaller spoon. Let me see if this, I don't want to break my, oh, this is perfect. Guys, I think we're going to have enough stuff that we can, I think I'm going to go get some cabbage and do some rolled cabbages. It's the same kind of stuffing for rolled cabbages too, if you guys prefer cabbage versus bell peppers. Okay, guys, you ready? Tell me that does not look gorgeous. Look at that. There's the stuffing. This is going to go into a baking dish. Tell me that does not look gorgeous. I don't use multicolored peppers for my stuffed peppers. I don't discriminate based on color. I love it. I love it. You guys are getting creative. You guys are funny. You guys, I gotta be honest with you. You guys crack me up. When I'm down in the pits, you know where I come. I come to YouTube. I put a live on. Like if I'm like really in the shitter or having just a bad day, which today's not really a bad day. It's a pressure day. You know, I feel like I feel like I'm damned if I do and damned if I don't. Like on a daily basis, it's a little unnerving at times. But you know, when I have a really shitty day, I go live. I come on here, and you guys like literally brighten up my day some days when I'm just at my wit's end. And you guys don't even know the power that you guys have over poor little Betty, but you guys do. But look at that. Tell me that's not gorgeous. Tell me that you, come on, VA. Even if you didn't like peppers or onions, that is a gorgeous pepper. Looks great, but I know. You are a picky eater, VA. One day I'll find something and you're going to be like, I'm coming to Florida. I'm coming to Florida with my crotchy feet. My ganja feet. You might have to stop off at Tennessee. You might have to stop at Tennessee and pick up some of the feet. DB is like, yeah, count me out on that one. There's another one. This was the broke one. See, it's even busting out at the side just a little bit. So that'll work. This is the one that's going to be tough. I can only fill this one up halfway. I'm missing a little corner. It's the one that cooked a little bit quicker than everybody else. But we can still fill it up. We can still fill it up. I bet you this one's going to taste the best, isn't it? Because it's the one that's defective. There we go. I bet you this one's going to be the best. It's always the underdog that's the best. Look at that one. It's even got taking a bite out of crime. Because it's a crime to look this good. It's a crime to look this good. All right, guys. We have all these things in here. It looks like they're well. Now I'm just going to get this gunk off my fingers. And let me just finish it up. I might as well finish doing what we need to do here. I love stuffed cabbage. Yum. Yeah, there's plenty of, I mean, I don't have a lot, I mean, not a whole lot for stuffed cabbage. But this right here, I can put in the refrigerator and it'll marry real well for the next, I don't know, 24, 48 hours. And that's enough to do a whole platter of stuffed cabbage. That's enough to do a whole platter of stuffed cabbage. And I'll have to just go get some more tomatoes. And there you go. We had a meal that is now incorporated into 2 full meals. That's good. That's good. And I got to tell you, this right here, I think the bell peppers cost 79 cents a pound. I think I spent like maybe $2.29 on the bell peppers. I bought the meat, 5 pounds for 20 bucks. So I took a pound. So that's, what is that, $4 a pound? $4 a pound. So we got a pound of that. The sausage was like $5. So that's $2.50. And then you got the rice, which is like cents, you know, maybe 25 or 50 cents on that. So literally under $10, you've got 2 full meals. 2 full meals for a family of 4. This right here is feeding a family of 2 because, again, like I said, the bell peppers are only going to be, they're going to be the whole meal. So I think 2, and I probably, this is like one, like this is heavy. Let's see how heavy this is. I can't tell you what the plate is, but I have to think the plate's at least a pound. Ounces? Let's go pounds. Does it have pounds? There it is. So we're almost 5 pounds with this, and I have to think that this is more in line with 4 pounds because I have to think that this is at least a pound. I can't check it but I just put it on the scale and it said 4.88 pounds. So there you go. That is a meal. 4 pounds. That's a half a pound. No, 4 pounds, 4. But we had it, so 4 pounds because I took a pound off for the plate. So we've got a pound. One of these bell peppers weighs a pound on average. A pound per bell pepper. One bell pepper is legitimately a meal, all of its own. But I've got enough for some stuffed cabbage. Okay, guys, thanks for bearing with me. I thought that would be fun, something a little different as we start creeping into our true crime, because it's a crime. The stuff that we're seeing is a crime. I wish these parents spent more time taking care of their children, feeding them, educating them, and treating them well than being into their narcissism and sociopathy and stuff like that. And I feel that way. I know people have such a horrible opinion of Rebecca in this case. I know we all do. We all have a horrible opinion about the mother because she hasn't done the right thing by her child. And it's very hard for us, especially mothers, because some of our members here, not on this channel, but our main channel, have children that have lost their life by a variety of things, including murder, okay? And their stories, their stories of trying to find answers are heartbreaking. But we have people in our chat that have these experiences that only they understand. There's also a lot of women in our chat that have been abused viciously by somebody that they loved, either as a child or as an adult, and in some cases both. I'm not giving, nor will I ever give Rebecca a free pass, on this. But we also have to understand the reality of the situation. This man is violent. If what we are believing is true, this woman watched her husband unalive her son. If that's not something that puts a person in fear for their life, I don't know what will. The one thing about domestic violence is they have control over you even when you're outside of their presence. And we have to apply that here. Again, not giving her a free pass. But we all have to understand what we're dealing with. And I'm back and forth with wanting to condemn this woman and still very concerned about her safety and just trying to understand what is going on. But the idea that she hasn't been abused, I think would be unfair not to add here. We've heard from people that have worked with Jake. We heard stories about other relationships with people that have been with Jake, and every single one of them is abusive. Very, very violent and very abusive. There's a child that is missing, and I know that this woman, and she's been given the opportunity to come clean, but I'm praying to God that law enforcement is coming to her from a place of concern. I think that would get them further. Them going in and saying, look, we know he's beating on you. We know he's beating on your children. We know that you've been walking on eggshells far too long. Getting down to the heart of the issue and letting her know that she will be okay, I think it would go a long ways. Now, does that mean she's going to be okay from accountability? No, it doesn't. But I just feel like I love sauteed. I have sweet onions. I put yellow onions in that because I like the onion flavor coming out. I think there's certain dishes that if we use sweet or Vidalia onions, it would diminish the flavor versus enhancing the flavor. So I didn't tell you guys that, but I used yellow onion in that recipe as opposed, and I've got both onions. Even got green onion too, because I got green onion on my counter. It's already like freaking over a foot tall. Over a foot tall. They break you. They do. And I think that we're so quick to, and even me, I'm like, you had an opportunity to be away from him, you had an opportunity to seek help, you had an opportunity, and you just don't take it. But we have to understand and remember, because it's been so long since I've been in fear for my life. I was in fear for my life in my 20s. Even the crap that me and my ex-husband went through, I wasn't in fear for my life. Not like that. It was tumultuous, but I didn't fear for that I was not going to walk out of my home, okay, with my ex-husband. I didn't have that fear. I've had that fear before. And I have to go back to those times, and those times were a very, very long time ago. I was in my, it was almost a 10-year stretch from 20 to about 30, 32. But I have to remember, one of the things was, even when I wasn't around my ex, I remember making sure I stayed away from, even being in arm's reach of another man. I remember, just handling myself differently, making sure that, that there was no misconceptions of any impropriety whatsoever, because I was walking on eggshells and scared half to death that even looking in the direction of another man might cause injury to me. That was what I was dealing with. I wasn't dealing with having to protect children at the time, or, family. It was just me. And to think about how much control my abuser had on me, even when I wasn't in his clutches, I have to remember that. And it was pretty strong. It took me a long time to get out of the physically violent relationships. And I thought I had healed. I really did. I thought I had healed. I thought I had overcome, the things that brought me into those, because whenever you are an abused woman, I don't know how you manage to do this, but you do, and it's true. I'm living proof of it. You manage to find, even when you leave your abuser, you manage to find the next abuser. I don't know how it works out like that, but you manage to go and date somebody that you think is completely opposite of the person that your toxic relationship to. So you go out and find that, and then you walk right into another abusive relationship, and then you realize it's you. It's the things that attract you to a person. That's what's flawed. So then you have to start working on why you deem these people dateable with all these flaws. And then you start doing work on yourself, and I've done that. And then I thought I was over all the nonsense, and then I married my husband, and that was tumultuous. And I'm like, after 10 years of that, I'm just like, this is not where I'm meant to be. This is not where I'm supposed to be. So I left that relationship. You guys know, I ended up meeting this guy that I thought was a good guy. He was a philanthropist. He, handed out food to homeless people. He was involved in a lot of the politics that I was in. And his appearance was that of an amazing person that I had ultimate respect for, because of the work that he was doing in our community. And then I found out that, yet again, I was duped. Another toxic relationship that caused me a lot of mental and spiritual and emotional abuse. Was it physical? No, but it was a lot worse than physical. I can tell you that. The depths of low that relationship brought me is horrible. And to think that even with all that information, to still think about that person in a positive light is sickening. And that just shows you how much control people that abuse you have over you, even after years later. So I'm trying to understand this, and I'm trying to make sure that the people are held accountable that need to be held accountable, including this mother, which is really hard, because we know the walk that she's going through, and we know how toxic this relationship has to be, and how we know she must have watched her poor little baby be taken from her by this monster. And every time we turn around, he's standing right next to her. He has his hands on her shoulder. He has his hands around, near her neck. I don't know if you notice where he puts his hands, but it's always that he brings them around, and it seems like he almost clutches. You always see his hands pushed down almost when you see him touch his wife. And so I'm looking at all this, and I'm thinking, am I misanalyzing this? Is this lady in more danger than even I'm considering that she could possibly be in? And I think so. And I think she needs to be held accountable, but I think she could be a great asset to the case. And I think law enforcement needs to work with her. I think they need to get a clinical psychologist in the interrogation room with her by herself, and let that clinical psychologist help work with her if she's willing, to see if we can get somewhere. What I hate more than anything in the world is for this woman to be a victim of this crime as well. And she's in a hopeless, helpless situation, and the whole world's beating down on her when they need to be trying to help her get out of the situation. And, so we can find solution to this. There's a piece of me that's been fighting with myself over this aspect of it, that I have this soft spot in my heart for women of abuse. And I understand the dynamic of a battered wife, and we understand how much control these abusers have over their victim. And then you apply the fact that she most likely watched this man murder her son. And we're all sitting here saying, why don't you leave? Why don't you leave? Well, how do we know she is not absolutely, utterly terrified? She feels that this man, no matter, even if he's locked up, he's going to find her and hurt her. And I have to start, applying reality to this situation as well. And I think we're skipping over that. And I'm struggling morally with myself over how to handle this case, because I'm angry that we're here, and I'm angry that a mother didn't do more. But we have to apply the fear factor and how much control this man would have over her, even more so after injuring her son. Because look what you made me do. Look what you made me do. This is your fault. Every bit of this is your fault. You're responsible. You tell somebody, I'm going to tell them it was you. You tell somebody you were right there with me. Come out here. We're going to bury him together. You're responsible. You're as responsible as me all day, every day. We have to get down to the reality of the situation we could be looking at. And I really think that we need to be working with law enforcement to get that woman out of that house, or get him out of that house. She's going to keep doing the same song and dance because he's making her do the same song and dance. And I don't know how to help her other than saying how I feel about the situation. And, in part, my heart does hurt for her. And I can't act like it doesn't, because it does. And and I know some people may say that I'm really misplaced in that feeling. But I'm really struggling with this case, and more so than Jen Soto. Jen Soto, you guys knew I was on the fence. It could have been a flip of the coin of whether she was responsible and had knowledge or not. We know very well now she absolutely had knowledge, and she's a sick puppy and should have been charged right next to Stephen Stearns. But this is a little bit different, in my opinion. This child was so young. We don't have these charges for Rebecca. We don't have these things for Rebecca. And I bet you if somebody took the time to pull record requests of the homes that they've lived in, we're probably going to find more times than not, if law enforcement was brought out to their home. It was brought out to their home because Rebecca called that in because she was in fear for her life or fear for her safety or something else if those calls did come in. And I think that we have to understand that these abusers, the reason why they're able to keep their victims captive for so many years is because of the threat that they pose on their victims. So I'm struggling with this one, guys. I'm trying to be angry at this mom. I am angry at this mom in part, but there's just a piece of me that's just very fearful of what she's going through inside that home, even now. And it's probably 10 times worse now that the kids are gone. He's probably got her in such fear. Such fear. Well, she might want to be rescued, Lisa. She might be terrified. I mean, there was a point where I hid the abuse from my parents. One of my first real relationships I was in was a guy that I was naive. I didn't realize that there were kids that grew up in families that had drug addiction as part of their, their family dinner conversations and stuff like that, where my ex-boyfriend was from a home that had a lot of drugs. He was living with his grandma. I thought it was because his dad was dead, and which is true, but it was because his mom was all strung out on drugs. Well, she because the drugs were always readily around the children when they were growing up, they had an addiction to that as well. I was very naive at that time. I would think I was only 14 or 15 years old, so not into that. I was probably maybe smoking a little, reefer or drinking maybe some beer or whatever we could get our hands on, but hard stuff, absolutely not. And so he was volatile because he was, either going up or coming down. And I was the brunt of that at 14 and 15 years old. And I kept that away from my family for a really long time. Nobody knew what he was doing to me until I was in fear for my life. He thought I was cheating on him with his best friend. Now, mind you, I walked around with my head down, didn't talk to anybody, didn't look at anybody, and damn sure didn't look at any other guy. And he wanted to beat me. He wanted me to tell him that I was cheating on him. And so he kept hitting me, and finally he went and got a knife and stuck it up to my throat. And, that scared me enough that I ended up taking, he was a smoker even at that young age, but he had a glass ashtray. And I took that ashtray and cracked him upside the head and ran out the house. And so I was so scared, I called my father. And, my dad ended up coming over there. You guys know my story with my father. When things are good, they were good. When they were bad, they were bad. I love my dad. My dad was a great father. When I was growing up, he taught me everything I know, but it didn't mean that my life wasn't in turmoil a lot of the times. Things that I didn't realize didn't go on in other people's homes. But he was the one of all people that came out there. And when he saw the marks on my neck, he was the one that called law enforcement. I still couldn't call law enforcement to save myself. My father had to do that for me. And I'll never forget that. And that was the control. And even after that, even when I moved back into the home with my mom or my dad, and going back between my mom and my dad's house, I was still struggling with my relationship with this guy, and still kept going back. I never got enough. And then when I finally had enough, I moved on with a guy that pretty much did the same thing. And so a piece of me is stuck in this case because of my own personal experiences and the personal control that my abuser had over me, especially at tender years, and the violence. That was one of the most violent relationships I was in. There have been some violent, other ones, like when I was 20, I had a pew here, and I remember I was at the end of my wits. I remember just biting down and just saying, just take me out. You don't realize how hopeless. This case is bringing me back to all of those very painful feelings of things that have happened to me. But I still remember that control, that control that they had. And that's where my heart is kind of bleeding for this woman is, is she in that type of situation? And I believe she is. I'm sorry. There's something within me that really believes that she, that things are even worse for her now than they've ever been. Freedom and choice not the greatest at that age. Yep. Yep. So, and it changed, it changes you. You don't realize some of those decisions, just like you say, VA, at such a young age, that really changes the direction of your life. Had I stayed in school, had I chose not to run away from home to be with my boyfriend, would my walk be different? It sure would have. Those decisions I made when my brain wasn't even developed yet, set the course for a lot in my life. And those are the experiences I personally have, and I'm applying those experiences to this case because I believe this is a very volatile family. And look at that lady's face, even in this picture. I'm sorry. She looks terrified to me. She looks terrified. No matter what we think of this, every time I look at this lady's face, even when she's telling the story, even when she's really trying very, very hard to convince us, I see a very scared woman. And it's hard for me to shake that. And it's hard for me morally to just go all in and scorch earth. So, as much as I want to go scorch earth on her for the public pressure of it, there's just a piece of me that's preventing me from doing so. We're going to go scorch earth on Jake, without a doubt. And until more information comes up about what she has specifically done, I'm just conflicted. I'm just conflicted. Hopefully you have those who matter most support you. I do. And I can tell you over life, from going from a very popular, vibrant, outgoing person, I have a very, very, very small trusted circle. Very, very small. And and prior to this, I had a small circle, but after coming onto YouTube, I've even shrunk my circle even smaller than that. I used to have at least 150 people that I regularly spoke to on a weekly basis. And that has now come down to literally my family and a few friends. And all of my activism and advocacy is by way of emails or me calling my connections and pitching something to them and them taking the ball and running with it. So, I've reduced. I feel like I'm in a good spot. I've been trying to heal from, the stuff that happened in the end of 2023. And, I'm just getting to the point where not being around or arguing with anybody seems like I don't know. It's kind of going to the cream of the crop. I just don't see, I've gotten into this little spot of comfort in my life. I don't even want to disrupt it, I don't even want to disrupt it. It's like, Olivia's always cocky. Her life is starting to flourish. And many of you guys, if you don't know, she's been dating someone. And, her life is going on. So she's always constantly wanting to, set me up or this, that. It's just like I tell her, I'm like, honey, it's not something that interests me anymore. I'm just getting to that point. Quitting is very therapeutic. Exactly. It's like, what? I haven't scored, well in that realm of life for 46 years. I think at this point, maybe it's just time to just hang it up. Hang it up. It's better than the pain. That's the way I look at it. It's not the most. I'm sure there's probably like everybody in there. The mother, especially our psychologist on this platform is like, I don't know, Betty, might not be healthy. But I'm telling you, my brain hasn't been any healthier any other way. I'm telling you, right now is probably the healthiest my brain, body, and soul have been in a really, really, really long time. Uh, not anymore for me after rebooting. Oh, is it freezing up? It shouldn't be freezing up unless I got a little cold. Wait, let me check. I'll be right back. Give me just a second. No, it shouldn't be anything on my end that caused it to have a little meltdown, but and all my internet, I'm right here by the box. It's all good. So if you guys are having problems, it very well might just be YouTube. Because if people are having problems in different areas, you know. Okay, Pete. Okay, thank you. It's been freezing up a tiny bit for me too. Okay, so it has to be a YouTube thing. It's not a me thing. I can tell you that. All right, guys, we're at 12:26 Eastern Standard Time right now. We're going to go ahead and close out the show. Thank you for being with me while we talked about this case. Like I said, I was just wanting to be honest with you about my feelings, my struggles, and how I'm analyzing this case. It's hard for me. It truly is. It's hard for me on cases like this, trying to weed through, you know, what the woman may go, because look at Felicia Gross, right? She's a piece of garbage mother that did this. You know, Katie Proudfoot, again, a piece of garbage mother, in my opinion, did this to her son. There was no third party. There was no stepfather that was a party in what happened to these children. It was the mother. But in this case, I truly don't believe that it is the mother. I believe that she has experienced something horrific at the hands of Jake. And I want to see that monster behind bars. If she has culpability, if she's the one that you know, hurt the child, then I want her in jail. But if she is a victim of Jake's as well, and she is a victim of all of this, much like their younger daughter, yeah, she's an adult. But we've all, at least some of us that have had this walk, and especially walks with really violent people, we know the control that they had over us even when we were not in their presence. And maybe I'm trying to justify some of the actions for this woman. Maybe I'm trying to find clarity for myself. You know, I don't know why, but it's obviously bothering me. You know, I'm being bothered with Rebecca. Rebecca is really weighing on me on what the best approach to this case with Rebecca. And I think the outside of her calling this child in, and that being terrible because she's covering up for her man, what did that man have to do to her to force her to do that? Did he have to force her? I think we need answers to those questions before we can really go much further with her, in my opinion, because everything will be analyzed improperly if we don't have some critical details on certain dynamics of this. Is she there? Is she a participant? Yes. The question is she really a willful participant? And that is where I have my problems, because even though she's free and she's able to walk around, is she willfully free, and is she willfully walking around? And that I believe she's still under control. So listen, I don't want you guys putting your personal private business on here. I put my personal private business on here because I like to empower people. My story is my story. It's not going to change. It's what made me who I am today. It's very painful for me to talk about at times, but sometimes not so much. This one it is, because I, went down pretty deep to try to understand what this woman could be going through. And it's still, sorry, it still bothers me when I go a little too deep. But, sorry guys, give me just a second. But I also don't want to blame. You guys know I'm really big on victim shaming and victim blaming. There's other things that feel like victim shaming and victim blaming when it's not. It's just having a conversation, a very sensitive conversation about whether they're a victim or something more. And those conversations are never easy to have on these platforms, but this is a little bit of different dynamic because it's domestic violence, and domestic violence is just a different animal. It just is. It's a different animal, and the control factor, the mental control that they have over you, is one of the toughest parts of domestic violence that needs to be broke. It's the toughest part. And if we believe that she's a battered wife, we have to believe that all these things go along with it, because it's not just, we all know that the abuse is not just about the physical or the mental. It's about the mental illness that comes along with it, that becomes part of you going through that. You have coping mechanisms to deal with that, and sometimes it's the mental illness aspect of it, where you feel like they're watching you even when you know they're at work. It's the eggshells. It's everything. And if I believe, which I've said this more over on this case than anything, that I believe she's a battered wife, and I'm angry because she won't, when she's away from him. But I have to go back to those very painful times in my life. And that person had control over me 24/7, whether I was at home with my parents, around them, or hanging out with friends. The control. They had control over me even when I was not with them. A lot of control. So, I'm not pleading for her, but I am. I'm just trying to understand. And that's where I'm at. So anyways, that's just digging deep, y'all. And I'm glad when I dug deep, we only had 40 people in here. This is my 40 ride or dies. My 40 ride or dies. Thank you guys for allowing me to vent on this topic. I don't know which way to go with this. And so I'm going to ask you guys to, if you've been abused, or you've, kind of walked this, or you've had somebody hurt your children, and this is not to be broadcasted to anybody, but if you can give me some insight, either validate or oppose my feelings, send those to bullhornbetty@gmail.com. I really like to gauge your opinions on it. Is she being controlled even when he's not around? We have to ask ourselves that question, because before we can blame her, we have to remove that she's a victim of domestic violence, and I don't know if we can. And domestic violence is lethal. One person is already missing from that family, and I'd have to think that's a pretty good control tactic. Look what I did to him. You open your mouth, I'll do it to you. I can't imagine living, I can't, I've lived like that before, but I haven't lived like that in so many years that I think I forget about the fear. Just the pure fear. Oh, Lisa brings up a good point. She's afraid of his family. I don't know. I've just gotten to the point in life where I've got very little. I mean, I worry about my personal safety, but as far as fear, my fear factor is very high. I can handle a lot of fear, because I feel like if God wanted to take me, trust me, he could have a long time ago. At this point, every single day that I've lived from the age of 25 to 46 has been a day that I wasn't supposed to have. So it allows me to be a little more brazen. It allows me to be a little more, I will never allow myself to feel fear again. I'd get angry over fear. I would rather be a raging lunatic than show fear. Coping mechanisms, right? Coping mechanisms. She's putting him before her children, and because of that, I can't defend her. Yeah, but is she really? Or is she, or, you know, and that's, we're assuming she's putting him before her child. And it's because she hasn't opened her mouth. But we don't know what it's like to watch a person take the life of somebody we love either. I don't know. I don't know. I'm having a moral problem with it, and I'm on the same vein as you, where we shouldn't be giving her compassion or anything. But there's just a moral compass in me that feels that if I didn't feel she was some type of victim in all of this, I wouldn't be struggling this bad with it. And you guys know that. I do feel she is a victim in part in this. I also believe she's part of the problem in this as well. And that's what we have the court systems for, and why we have extenuating circumstances that can be factors in you know, the crime or the sentencing, and she's going to have to walk through that walk. I just pray to God that she just wisens up and saves herself from any more pain and just tells the truth, because I don't believe she did this. She's got no reason to fear. The only thing that she has is being forced into saying the same story he did, and she can prove that. So in the grand scheme of things, she just needs to know she's okay. I really believe if she felt okay and safe, she would spill her beans. I do feel that way. I do feel that way. I feel like if they can just get her in a place mentally where she can see herself being safe, I feel like she really would just spill the beans. I think she's tired. I think she's scared. But more importantly, I think she's tired of this weight being on her shoulders. And I just feel if she just knew that law enforcement, you know, they start treating her like a victim, much like our HT people and ST people. They're being forced to do stuff even when they are with or without their pimp or abuser. And they get some type of help. And I just think that if law enforcement came with those types of kitten gloves, in the sense that she's a victim, then they're going to get a lot further. If they keep treating her like a criminal, like Jake, that's what Jake's been putting in her mind. You're here with me. You're right along with me. You're just as responsible as I am. So when they keep treating her like a criminal, she's going to keep hearing Jake's words in her head over and over again. They're not going to believe you. And I think they just need to tell her. They may have. And she may have still thwarted the opportunity. We don't know. But I hope that they are coming from that angle as well. Because I think if they do, they might be able to get somewhere. They need to let her know that whatever Jake has told her is not true. She needs to feel safe in that. Just my opinion, from one abused woman to another, you know. I don't know what I would have done in a situation like that. You know, I have to take myself back to my 20-year-old self. And if I had a child and I was in this situation, what would I do? What I've done? I don't know. I just know how much control my abuser had over me. I would like to think that if I had a child and I just watched my child get taken off this earth, I would be screaming from the rooftops. I would love to believe that of me, but I don't know. I didn't. Thank God I didn't have to go through it. But looking back now at my 20-year-old self, I have to try to really do some soul searching. I think everybody should. Just saying. All right, guys, that's my pity party for today. Rock it out with your coffee beans out. If you guys didn't know, go back to the beginning of this. Make yourself something hearty, something inexpensive, homemade that your family will love. And that is stuffed bell peppers. But if you don't like stuffed bell peppers, but you like the filling, There is stuffed cabbage, and believe it or not, we have enough filling that in a couple days I'm going to be making some stuffed cabbage, and it is going to be delicious. So you're going to want to be here in 2 days for our next cooking and crime show here on Bullhorn Betty Crime Stories. Maybe we should say it, cooking and crime. Did I tell you we have a coffee house too? I haven't been in the coffee house. None of you guys even know about the coffee house. But I set up a coffee house. And who knows? We might go do a debut on the coffee house. We only have like 426 subscribers in the coffee house. I wish I was able to turn these groups, and I wish YouTube would allow us to have, like, you know how they have the community stuff in here where you guys get the number on, you know, who you are, on the you know, how many times you've chatted. I would love to have like almost like a group like Facebook on YouTube where you guys can just come in and hang out and have your cup of coffee and be chatting with your friends and stuff like that. But they don't have those type of communities here. Wouldn't that be awesome? Like you wake up and you go into the coffee house and you see like your friend Melanie or Lisa B always in there chatting, and you guys go in there and you guys have your cup of coffee. Well, Betty's gonna be going live in an hour. Let's just hang out and get ramped up. You're gonna pimp up the coffee house. I am. So then you're in there. But I would love something like that, you know. And then I could come in there. It's like, hey, what are you guys talking about? You know, I could be the fly on the wall. Like I could go in there and go up like to yesterday and say, oh, whoa, what were you talking about there, Lisa B? Always, we saw that. We saw that. You did what? Where? Oh my goodness. No, I'm just. But until then, we do have Facebook and we do have the Bullhorn Betty, you know, group. So if you guys really want to get up, maybe we should start incorporating morning coffee with the Facebook group so we can say hey to everybody before we start. I don't know. I'm just saying. All right, guys, go make it a great day. We'll see you soon.